So, Prerna, what is your religion?
I'm a Hindu.
You're a Hindu.
Yeah.
Okay. So, as a Hindu, how do you view economic development differently than a Christian would?
As a Hindu, I think for the fact that we look into nature as having God within it. So there are a lot of customs in the northern part of India, as in Rajasthan and Gujarat and Maharashtra, where they have they do religious ceremonies for the trees to protect them, and they look at trees as gods. In fact, the neem tree,
Mm-hmm.
it's a kind of a tree over there with these very pretty leaves. It's actually a very sacred tree. So so we look at nature as having God within. So we generally don't like to tamper with nature much. But in the realm of development, I think we would try to grow by not harming nature in a more sustainable manner. So I think that's how we look at development from my
Okay.
religion's point of view.
Yeah. What about in an urban context?
Oh, in an urban context, that would be very difficult
Yeah.
because you know how it's moving towards a very capitalist society where people are very worried about profits and more profits and just profits all the way. So in that, I think the feeling of sustainable development that gets lost somewhere in the middle. So I think in the urban way, we must really wake up and find that we need to start worrying about the environment because that's what sustains us.
Right.
And ultimately, we're not going to be able to be on this planet if we don't, save it.
So, do you think that there's a better economic system besides capitalism?
I think
For
I like
development?
the socialist point of view,
Yeah.
where everybody has their own share of wealth. Isn't that what socialist is about? Correct me if I'm wrong.
I believe it has to do with more government-owned enterprise.
Yes, and then, but isn't that a little different from the communist saying that each person has their own wealth?
Yeah. Yeah, socialist, yeah, it's more in the middle.
More in the middle of communist and capitalist.
Yeah.
But each person has their own profit, but the government also has a stake in it.
Right.
I think that's socialist. I think communist is where the government owns everything.
Yeah.
I think that's communist.
Yeah.
So I like that aspect of a government where you have your own share of the profit, but still the government is in control. So that's how my country works. We're a socialist.
Okay. Do you feel like, let's see, what do you think of the idea of incarnation as a development motif? So as opposed to bringing a program to an area without really knowing the people, or like moving into a neighborhood and really getting to know the people for a long time and making the program more about the participation than sort of a pre-planned program.
I think for the fact that without knowing the people of the community, if you want to introduce something, that really won't work because you need to find out the needs of the society. Then only you can, if necessary, you might have to alter your programs which you want to implement over there. So I think that's very important as a person who's initiating development.
Okay.
So that's my views on it. And I think that in my society, there's a lot of room for development in my country. You see the villages slowly they're getting solar energy, and they're moving towards a better lifestyle where they have like subsidies for the crops. I mean for the produce, and then there's irrigation facilities, and there are fertilizers coming up. But initially that was not there.
Yeah.
So it was wholly dependent on the climate and wholly dependent on the farmers and how they do it and manure and stuff like that. And manure was often cow dung and waste vegetables and food which goes rotten. That was manure. So for moving from that to a little more civilized, if you may call it, that is a good development, I think. And so I think what the secret behind those developments, people really understood the demography of the place over there, and they found out what was missing, and then they substituted that. That's why it was a raging success. I
Okay.
would suggest that.
Do you think there's any aspect of the Hindu religion that might impede economic development?
Yeah, because initially they used to say that girls get married at a very young age in my country. So that really, you know, it totally clashes against the idea of economic development, which says that women should be educated and family planning should be implemented. Girls shouldn't get pregnant at a very young age. And if you look at it in my country, initially girls used to get married as early as 14. So that's a really young age, and the woman doesn't know much about life at that point, and she's not educated. And I think women education is something which is very important.
Okay. But you think that might be difficult to implement?
No, that won't be difficult to implement.
Oh, you don't think
no,
so?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Do you think that there are aspects of the Hindu religion that make development easier than it would be, say, for the Christian religion? Or do you not really see a difference?
I don't really know much, so I don't know how I could. Because if I had known a lot more about Christianity, I would probably be in a position to answer this question. But I know about one religion, not knowing about one other religion, I don't want to comment and, put myself in an ugly position.
Yeah. Okay.
So, yeah.
Trying to think concerning. So, how do you think Christians look differently at development than Hindus, just based on your experience here at Eastern?
I think the fact that you guys look to the Bible as a sort of a guide, you would say, we don't really look at the Bhagavad Gita that way. So it's like we generally tend to trust instincts more about, is this right, is this wrong? They say the inner conscience. You might call it the soul, the Trinity of the Father.
Or the Holy Spirit.
The Holy Spirit, probably. Yeah, so we call it the conscience generally. And
Okay.
I don't know, I think we generally tend to look at that. But the Bhagavad Gita doesn't really direct people to do this, do that. It just gives you a holistic approach to life as it is. And it says you can follow me, you cannot follow me. It's like that. I guess that's the way. I feel that the Bible directs people more. That's my notion of things.
Okay.
But at the end of it, I see that both the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita sort of give out the same notions to development.
And what are some of those notions? That we should respect nature?
You should respect nature. Each and every individual is probably unique, but at the end of the day, you guys are all the same brothers and sisters of planet Earth. And the stewardess thing, we need to be stewards to the earth. That's also there in the Bhagavad Gita. We are crusaders against environmental pollution and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I think nature is being touched upon a lot on both.
Okay. Being here in the U.S. And at Eastern University as a Hindu, do you feel like you have to resist any sort of dominance pressed upon you?
I don't get time to pray. That's like the only thing which I'm slightly worried God is angry with me about. But then I know that He knows what I'm going through. And He's seeing that, work is worship for me.
Yeah.
So I think that compensates.
Okay.
He knows what's happening.
So,
I haven't been to a temple in a long time, which generally I do, like once a week I go to the temple.
Okay.
So I have these 3 temples which I visit, like in a month I generally tend to go to these temples. Like once a week I go to one temple, and once a month I go to 2 temples.
Oh, okay.
So I haven't been able to go to a temple.
Okay.
I haven't been able to pray. So apart from that, there's no dominance as such.
No.